I go on my page, do I go to my page or do I press live?
Turn your volume all the way down.
It'll go to your Facebook page as soon as it goes live. Looks like you're live. So, if you don't see it on the page, just refresh.
How you refresh?
Pull it down.
Oh, okay.
Yep, there we are.
There we go.
Cool.
Ah, we in the building.
Alright, I got my phone on me. Text me if anything goes wrong.
Okay. Get Darnell the number. Okay.
Just gonna be right there.
Yeah. Man, listen, we live right now. So
Okay.
Okay. So, first and foremost, welcome to another episode. Is it episode?
Yes.
Episode of Pros and Cons. I'm here with my man Darnell. My shout out to my dude Keelan and Bride. They can't be with us right now. You know, they got some things going on, but we're gonna hold it down for them till they get back. We are redoing. We doing a redo. We running it back.
Yes.
Must do.
With
Take two.
Cherlynn.
Take two.
Because
Remix.
you know,
Must do.
I definitely a must do. Y'all missed a dope interview. I don't know if we're gonna capture that same. You know, I think we still gonna capture that same.
I think we got
energy.
it.
I think we're gonna capture that same
Hopefully
energy.
be better.
You know what I'm saying? But y'all and a lot of people say that too. Like, man, we couldn't hear it. And I'm like, we gonna run it back. We gonna run it back.
We got it back. I'm glad to be here again.
I got you on that. So appreciate y'all. Whoever showing up, man. Whoever meant to get this gonna get this. And if you miss it, you better find somebody who got it.
Hey y'all. Say hey. Say hey. Let us know you're here. Everybody hear us okay?
Right there. So, for the people who don't know and who missed it, please introduce yourself.
All right, so my name is Cheryl Perez. Growing up in Youngstown, I was Cheryl Cooper. And I'm the CEO of Cheryl C. Perez Brands. It's a brand of companies, so right now I have 2 companies under one brand umbrella. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. Primarily, I work with and teach various levels of entrepreneurs and to help them navigate growing their businesses, setting them up, creating their processes, their infrastructure. So the 2 dynamics of entrepreneurs I work with are those who have been in business for a while. They're already at multiple 6 figures. They want to transition to 7-figure businesses, and they need help with processes, hiring their teams, HR, all of that kind of stuff. And then over the last 18 months, I have really enjoyed working with startup entrepreneurs. So those who are aspiring to live the entrepreneurial dream, have amazing ideas, amazing hustle, and just want to get their businesses set up in a legit way so that they can scale it. They can be their only gig, which is important, and then they can get to that 6-figure mark, multiple 6 figures. When you hit a $10,000 a month as an entrepreneur for the first time, there's nothing like it. And so that's really where my passions sit the most, working with those entrepreneurs. So, and I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Why is we excited for you? We glad you came back.
I'm glad you had me back.
You know, we usually only do the podcast bi-weekly, right? We like, no, it's opening, we running it back, we getting it back on here, you know.
I appreciate it.
Let people know, look, because even Dion, she was like, y'all doing a podcast this week? I'm like, yep, we sure is. We putting Cheryl back on there. So why do you say that that you like the best part of your I don't even call it job, it's really your way of life.
It is.
It's helping startup entrepreneurs.
You know, I think because I am a firm believer that as a Black community, but just in general as well, we get caught in this rut where we are unhappy in what we do. And I truly believe that wealth, when you think about the richest people in the world, right, they either sell or they own. And I think that for our community specifically, you can be an entrepreneur and make millions of dollars and be independently wealthy, have a lifestyle that permits you to be freedom, provide for your children and your family without certain educational levels, you don't need any of that stuff. You can just legitimately have a passion, have a desire, and you can grow it into something. You can create something. So I believe entrepreneurship is the fastest way to financial and lifestyle freedom for every individual out there. I also believe that when you decide to take the leap of faith into entrepreneurship, that you deserve to have somebody take your hand and take that leap with you. Somebody who's been there, who's done that, who's made the mistakes, and who can help you get there faster. Because inevitably you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from those mistakes as an entrepreneur. But if I had somebody 25 years ago when I first started my first business, if I would have had somebody take me by the hand and say, don't do that, or do it this way, or you know what, you skipped a step, let's go back and do it this way so you can avoid the heartache that's going to come your way, then I would have been so much further than I am right now. I mean, you know, I'm talking about billionaire with a B type of money. You know, had that. Yeah. So, and I think there needs to be more black billionaires. And the only way you're gonna get there, is if you own the company.
Yeah, but don't black billionaires? Don't black billionaires have a responsibility to help create other black billionaires? It feel like they get to that point, then it's like, okay, I got mine. You better figure out how to get yours.
No,
am I cynical for thinking like that?
I think so, a little bit. I mean, I think that some instances, I think that there are some black billionaires, although the ones that I can think of, and there's only a handful of them off the top of my head, they do give back. They just don't necessarily give back to other entrepreneurs because that's not their thing. Gotcha. You know, they give to colleges and universities or other causes that are close to their heart. For me, entrepreneurship is that for me, you know, helping people just believe and just experience that. It is an amazing experience when you have freedom. When you have financial freedom, it's a different, I mean, you stress about other stuff. I stress about other stuff, but I'm not stressing about the same stuff that my mom, you know, on Cleveland Street in Idlewood stressed about.
Right.
And I just think it's critical. I mean, like now, I've got children. I'm actively able to participate in all the craziness that they get me involved in.
Doing my research, I'm like, I can tell you, like, that's real big to you, like being there for your kids' events and sports and things like that. Like, you real big on that. So
I am.
I can see that.
I am.
You know,
if I had to request days off,
yeah, it'd be hard.
I wouldn't have been there half the time. You know, I wouldn't, not just the events, but the practices, the picking up and the dropping off. School schedule practice, they don't care if you at work or not. They're like, you get out of practice at 4:15. Well, the average person can't just leave work at 4:15 to pick up their child from football. So that sometimes deters you from getting your children involved in stuff because you're like, I can't miss work, you know, as a parent. So, and I think that experience for your kids is critical. And just to be there for my family. My mom and my dad are at a point in the age where I'm taking care of them, and they've had health challenges. They have doctor's appointments I have to go to with them. They've had surgeries. They've had hospital stays. You know, my dad's in Florida. I've had to be able to jump on a plane and fly there whenever I needed to. And if I was working for somebody else, I would never be able to do that. I'd never be able to do it. So I am extremely thankful and proud that I took that leap because it was scary. You know, it was very scary. And
the scariest part.
I know. I mean, I was trapped in the. I need to have a regular paycheck. That perception of security with a regular biweekly paycheck. And I say perception because it's not real security. You know, anytime somebody else is in control of how much money you make, if you make that money, if you get that paycheck, that is the least secure you can be. You ultimately want to be that decision maker. So as soon as you can control how much money you make, if you get paid, when you get paid, that's truly security. But you know, you work for companies that shut down all the time. You hear stories all the time. Somebody go to work and all of a sudden they come home and they don't have a job no more. But they didn't pursue their own entrepreneurial dreams because of that security. You know.
And what you call that again?
The perception of security.
I'm letting you know now. I'm still in that because I talk to a lot of people that's working.
I knew you was
12.
Gonna like that.
Huh?
I said, I knew you was gonna like that.
Yeah.
I knew you was gonna kill on that.
That working, and y'all know who y'all are, working 12 hours a day, probably 5-6 days a week. And I keep saying, why are you working so hard for somebody else when you can find something that you want to do and work hard for yourself?
It's the fear.
So what would you say to them to get them to overcome the fear?
You just have to have somebody to help you, you know, and somebody to coach you through it, somebody to tell you that it is possible, and ultimately somebody to show you, kind of be that example. You know, I think I was so afraid. In all my businesses, my first couple businesses were side hustles, and they were slated in my life to be side hustles. I never got out of that 9-to-5 work for somebody else, that W-2 mentality. I just felt like, oh, I'm making extra money. You know, instead of really, my very first business, I had really no idea that it was a business. I truly functioned like I was working for somebody else, and it was going to be like extra money. And I think had I had an example growing up, I mean, you know, we grew up on the south side of Youngstown. I wasn't running into black entrepreneurs, you know, every day. So the perception that it was possible for me wasn't necessarily there. So it's sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow. It's hard to believe. But you can totally do it. You can totally do it. You can do it. You can do it right. You can do it well, and you can make money.
Something that I do want to, that I've learned that I do want you to elaborate on and kind of emphasize is because I think part of the fear is failure, right? A lot of things in life we won't do because we're scared to fail at doing it.
Yeah.
But in business or starting a company, it's actually part of the process, is it not?
It's mandatory.
Okay, would you elaborate?
It's mandatory that you fail. It's mandatory in life that you fail, right? So, perfect example, my son got 2 tickets. And, you know, he's adult, so I can't whoop him. I can't put him on punishment. But I did explain to him what was getting ready to happen with his car insurance. I'm like, okay, dude, you under 25. You're a man. Your car insurance rate is naturally higher. And see, one thing I know about my son is that he loves money. He loves to hold on to it. He don't spend it. He's that child. You know, he'll spend everybody else's money, but he'll have $3,000 in the bank at like 15. Like, dude, you've been stacking all your allowances like that? You know, and he's like, can I get, you know, dinner? You gonna use your own money? I won't eat. I'll just wait till I get home. You know, that's who he is. So I knew for him that it was important for me for him to experience that failure of getting that ticket. And in entrepreneurship, it's the exact same way. You don't really learn what not to do the next time if you don't experience it yourself, or at least have someone else tell you what that possibility is. So as an entrepreneur, you don't find the right product blend, you don't find the right pricing, you don't necessarily even find the right customer until you've decided and made a mistake. And I made so many mistakes that I learned. Like my very first business, you know, I lost it in my divorce. And it was because I thought that when you start a business and you're married, that your husband is automatically supposed to be a partner in that business. And because you're married, you just put your husband on the article or organization. But I didn't put an operating agreement together. I didn't put a partnership agreement together. I didn't put any kind of paperwork together that said, if you're going to be a part of this business, this is what you have to legitimately contribute to that business, regardless of whether or not we're married.
Right.
So I learned after I lost that business in the divorce, literally had to dissolve it because I was not about to stay married to somebody that I hated just for the sake of not having to dissolve my business. I'm like, okay, done. I'll just start a new one. But after that point, I don't care who I'm married to. You know, we're gonna have an operating agreement. We're gonna determine what percentages it's gonna be. We're gonna make sure that the paperwork is in the best interest of everybody involved, regardless of that relationship. And you know, you learn. So now I'll never, ever, 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 ever do that again. Ever, ever.
So yeah.
And I tell my students when they're like, "Well, I'm gonna start my LLC," you know, me and my husband, I'm like, "So let's talk about that."
Hold on, now you can't dissuade them because
no, they need to know that.
Yeah, I'm not dissuading. I'm just saying anybody that ever becomes a partner in your business needs to contribute.
Yeah,
needs to contribute
because I look at it like this.
You're a great communicator.
Thank you.
So listen, take advantage. She's a wealth of knowledge. If you want to know something, shoot the question through, man. We're gonna make sure we ask the question. Okay, well.
So I look at it like this. Basically, what you were trying to explain to them is, it's just like, let's say a millionaire getting ready to marry somebody that don't have as much money as they do, so they're gonna sign a prenup.
Mm-hmm.
So start.
That would be my recommendation.
And the operational agreement, you gotta basically explain everything out.
Yep. Spell it out.
And that's
even if you are a sole proprietor.
That's an excellent point too.
Even if you're a sole proprietor, have an operational agreement. What happens to that business when you die? Your operations agreement is your will for your business. What happens to it? You see so many family-owned businesses that have, been passed down through generations, and then it gets to one generation, and it's like they're gonna shut it down because the assumption was, oh, I'm just gonna give it to my grandchild. But how do you want that transaction to take place? What do you want that to look like? Is very important. And your operating agreement talks about, the vote, who's got what percentages, what each percentage is worth, what your shares are worth, what happens if you dissolve the company, who's eligible to get the company, how does inherency work with the company, and that's all important. So an operational agreement is a basic piece.
So if you already start, say you already started LLC, and you have none of that in there, can you go back and put it in there?
Yes. You can create an operational agreement at any point in your entrepreneurial journey. If you have started it with someone, like if you have a partnership, I would definitely recommend that you do it up front, because or at least do it when the business is still losing money. Because it's easy to negotiate when the business ain't got no money. But if the business has money, it's a whole different conversation with your partner. So, do it in the beginning, but you can still go back and do it. You can always create that operational agreement. And I have, I have a digital membership program I work with startup entrepreneurs in, and in that it has videos and actual templates and stuff like that you can use to create, your operational agreement, your basic paperwork.
What's the name of your business again?
Cheryl C. Perez Brands.
Okay.
Yes.
Cheryl C. Perez Brands.
Yes. Yes. I've got 2 LLCs under the brand. So the brands company is just because, I own them. So,
facts.
Yeah.
We want to make sure they know,
Yes.
And we're going to...
CherylCPerez.com. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Or Cheryl C. Perez on YouTube. You can check that out too.
I get somebody trying to make me a YouTube guy. I think I'll get me a YouTube.
I think you should. YouTube
Speaking
is
of YouTube.
amazing marketing.
Speaking of YouTube, the other day, you was on live. I finally had a chance to see you, and you was at 4,999.
Yes.
Why was that so important to hit 5,000?
Okay, from an emotional standpoint or a business
Hold on,
standpoint?
I'm lost. Hold on,
Okay.
I'm lost.
Okay.
I'm lost in the conversation. 4,999 what?
Subscribers.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very difficult to grow subscribers on YouTube because it's the second largest search engine in the world. Google owns it. And so think about it. Even when you go on YouTube, you search to learn something.
Right.
So it's a learning platform. And YouTube, we started at 0 subscribers a little less than 2 years ago. And, YouTube, you can also get paid. So, but that wasn't the purpose of me starting it. But once you hit 1,000 subscribers, your channel becomes monetized. So what that means is advertisers can now have commercials during your YouTube videos, and if people click, you get paid. You split that. So YouTube pays you because you are providing content that they're making money off from advertisers. But that wasn't my primary reason. I wasn't trying to but it's an additional stream of income now. So the biggest milestones on YouTube are 1,000 subscribers. So there's an algorithm on all social media, and it all kind of plays with you until it determines if you're legit. That's how it works. So once you hit 1,000 subscribers, you become monetized. Just think about it from a business perspective. YouTube is not going to put your content in front of all kinds of viewers until they can make some money off of you. So your first 1,000 subscribers is blood, sweat, and tears. You are clawing to get those 1,000 subscribers. And once you hit it, YouTube all right, now we can make some money. So they start putting, we grew from 500 subscribers to 1,000 subscribers in 60 days. It took us over a year to get to 500.
Wow.
That was in March of this year. We hit 1,000 subscribers. We're at 5,000 the end of August. So once you hit 5,000, it becomes even easier. You get to 10,000. 100,000 is kind of like the holy grail. And not just from a YouTube compensation perspective, but there are people who have 100,000 subscribers, depending upon your RPM and your clicks and all that kind of stuff and what your average dollar is for your ads. There are people who make well over 6 figures just from YouTube videos, which wasn't even a part of my game plan, but it's a nice little topping.
Right. Because I look at YouTube for a lot.
We crossed over to 5,000, and I was like, wow. Wow.
I look at YouTube a lot.
Yeah.
So I can imagine.
You can learn how to fix the transmission on YouTube.
Well, I ain't looking to learn how to fix nothing. I'm not gonna lie to you about that.
I actually have one of that, but when I did go on that look to try to fix something, I tried it. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it don't.
People tell me, I used to tell me all the time, I used to date this girl, and I'd be like, I can't know, YouTube it. Like, man, YouTube it.
That's what I said.
YouTube it. I'm telling you, YouTube it. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
I started making homemade dog food for my dogs.
Huh?
Yeah. I'll tell you.
Are you serious?
Yeah. All that other stuff. I have my dog, my Tiana, is 11, and she's getting old.
You were so bougie.
Why?
Did you see how she just clutched her pearls? My dog.
She got old. She's getting old. She started getting all these weird allergies. And, you know, I'm like, okay, we took her to the vet. They put her on this medication. She's taking meds every day. She's itching. So I started doing research on YouTube. And there's this vet that is into natural remedies for dogs. So I started watching him because she had all these allergies all of a sudden, you know. And she was like moving slower, you know, doing stuff that you don't want to see your dog doing. And so he said, switch to more natural pet food. So then I switched to Fresh Pet. It's like refrigerated dog food. You can only buy it once a week, and it's supposed to be all natural. So I started reading the ingredients, like, I can make this. So I went back to his channel. He had all kinds of dog food recipes, and it is so much more cost effective. I was spending like $40 a week on this specialty dog food. I make her better dog food now for like $7 a week.
Man, she was eating better than the brothers in jail. $4 a week.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy, but now she gets, you know, like I'll make some ground turkey and some rice. And
ground turkey and rice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Red beans, sweet potatoes, mixed veggies, some collard greens.
Dog eating better than me, and I ain't in jail.
So both my doggies get fresh food, but YouTube hit me to it and gave me that option, because vet bills ain't no joke when your dog start getting old.
Yes, I'm not a dog guy. I'm not an animal guy.
Oh, I would put my dog on life support.
Yeah, oh Lord, the dog wear clothes? Please don't tell me. Oh my God, you know that's what they call that? Animal cruelty.
No,
that is.
Says the non-dog lover.
No, that's not.
That is animal cruelty. No. Dogs aren't meant to wear clothes. That's why they have fur.
No, my dog has sensitive feet.
Oh,
it's cold outside.
Anybody that's dog lover would highly disagree.
No, yes,
that is not why dogs were created, to walk around with. It wasn't. It wasn't. It was not.
Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that? Get a booze.
Anybody who know me, they know I don't care how small it is. I'm walking the other way. I don't mess with them. I've been bit by them several times, and they don't mess with me. So look, it's a mutual understanding.
Yeah.
They don't mess with me, and I don't mess with them.
Dogs are energy.
And I can't hide it.
Exactly.
And I can't hide it. And I ain't gonna hide it.
You're like, I don't like you. I don't like you. And they like,
But probably so. It ain't that I don't like you. I'm scared of you. You got teeth, and I'm gonna respect your biting ability. So I'm gonna go on
keep
the other
my boundaries.
way.
I think that's valid. I respect that.
You know. So tell me, top 3 things a person, top 3 must-dos when starting a business, and the top 3 don'ts.
Okay.
Y'all get y'all paper. Get y'all paper and y'all pencil.
Number one must-do is get your mind right.
Okay.
Number 1. Your business isn't going to go anywhere if you don't have the right mindset. If you don't have patience and recognize that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So sometimes entrepreneurs give up before they can see the results that they've been putting their blood, sweat, and tears into. Like I just told you the story about YouTube. You know, if I was an immediate expectation person, and I have no patience, generally. I am a non-patient having person. Like I try to open up a jar. If in the first 3 seconds it's not open, I'm handing it off. Somebody else can get this. And I have 0 patience for traffic. I have 0 patience for lines. They really bother me. They really bother. I feel like I'm wasting my life standing in line, which is why I have like TSA pre-check. Whenever we go to an amusement park, we get fast pass, and I will do self-checkout everywhere. I hate lines. So my patience levels were tested very much in the beginning. So you got to get your mind right. You got to get your mind around that concept that it's like improving your body. You know, you're going to work out for a while before you start to see results, and it's the same thing for your business. So you got to be patient. You have to also shed that 9-to-5 mentality. You know, you have to start recognizing that all your time is worth money, so you stop wasting it. And you learn time management skills that allow you to maximize your efficiency. So you have to be in a space where you recognize that every minute of your day needs to be planned, and you have to stick to that plan. You can't just let it happen. Like, oh, I got this, you know, I got to do this research before I can start my business. But when I get time, you know, I will. You'll never have time because it's not fun. Nobody ever just waits for something that's not fun to happen. And when you are working your butt off to start your business, it's not fun. It's stressful. You're learning various aspects of being a CEO. So that mindset piece is mandatory. Second, you have to do your research. Everybody has brilliant business ideas. That doesn't mean that you should start them.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they'll be profitable. That doesn't mean that you'll be able to implement them. So doing your research helps you understand who your target market would be if you have a business idea that is legit and can actually have some traction, who your competitors are, what they're doing well, what they're doing wrong, what can you capitalize off of from them, and also what the market is telling you. Is there an audience for what you want to sell? Because typically entrepreneurs, we have a million ideas, and we come up with these ideas because of our own experiences. So our entire business concept is based around what we feel, what we missed, what our pain points were, which is good. But you got to take it a step further and not stop there. And that's where we go wrong. As entrepreneurs, we just stop there. Oh, I'm just going to start this business because, you know, like the noodle guy, you know, whatever. The guy who created the noodles that cost $5 for the pool that they have, like, made him a billionaire. Those pieces of styrofoam. I just want to point that out. So he must have been like, I want to float when I'm in the pool or whatever. You know, whatever. I want to flirt when I'm in the pool without a raft.
Yeah.
So I'm going to create a noodle. Well,
that's what them called. I thought you were talking about a ramen noodle.
No, the noodles, the styrofoam ones, that you can configure. He had to have at least gone out to make sure that there was going to be other people that wanted to buy that noodle, because otherwise he's just making a noodle for himself. That's not a business. That's you creating something for yourself. So you have to make sure that you've done your research and that there's an audience for it. And then I would probably say the third biggest piece is make it legit. It's a lot of people walking around calling themselves business owners. They're not registered businesses. They don't have legit marketing structure set up. They don't have domains. They don't have websites. It's a business. It's not an LLC. They don't have a business bank account. They don't have any financial activity. And that's not a business. That's a hobby that you're making some money from. You are also opening yourself up to ridiculous amounts of liability personally. So I would advise against that. You know, if you're doing business and you're providing something to a customer, another person, they can always be pissed at you. They can always come back at you. They can always suffer some type of loss potentially from your product or service. And anytime you're giving somebody something and they could potentially suffer a loss, they can get pissed at you and come after you. And if you don't have an LLC or a legitimate business registered, your personal assets are subject to that loss. So the business protects you because they can only come after the business. It's all separate.
Gotcha.
And so many people walk around without legit structures, without legit setups. It drives me insane. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, so you've been doing business for 5 years? Yeah, I do business. I have a business up in 5 years. Okay, so, you know, would you register it? Oh, I didn't do that yet. Then what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? Make it legit.
So someone like me, I'm gonna use me. So
I saw you got your 501c3.
You know,
Look at you! Look at you! Congratulations!
So could you take someone like me who's just starting, right? You know, I put some work into creating a brand. Trying to make sure I'm legitimized, got my 501c3 tax exempt. Can you take that and make it successful? I won't say make it successful, but can you do with that what you're talking about?
Absolutely. And you having a 501c3 You have a whole different set of responsibilities and rules. Why did you start a nonprofit? What made you do a 501c3 versus a for-profit? I mean, although this ain't, I ain't supposed to be interviewing you, but I got questions.
No, yeah, reverse it on me.
I don't know what you mean reversing on me. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about for-profit. I didn't hear much about for-profit. And the research that I did was for nonprofit.
Okay.
So I guess I was comfortable with that. The advice that I got from people that I trust was go that route. So I would say that's why.
Okay.
Anything that's anytime I look at an organization that I wanted to mimic, as far as doing community stuff, was nonprofit. So I just it never even occurred to me to do for-profit. But again, I'm not a business person.
You can always still do for-profit. You can start as many businesses as you want.
And someone actually said that too, though, right? They didn't ask me why I did that, but they in the course of the conversation, he said that if I ever wanted to, but my pops actually, if I wanted to, I could do a for-profit. But it never occurred to me to do a for-profit. So like, I'm just going to give you an example. So oftentimes I'll have students that come to me and they say they want to start a nonprofit, or they're thinking, should I start a nonprofit? And I always tell you, when you are deciding between a for-profit corporation and a nonprofit corporation, there's 3 specific questions that you need to ask yourself. And if you answer yes to any of these questions, you shouldn't start the nonprofit. You should start a for-profit. Number 1 is, do you want to own it? Yes.
Do you want to make money from it?
Yes.
That's tricky. I want to be able to sustain myself by doing it. I don't know if...
So you still want to make money?
Well, like profit. Do you want to make profit, I should say? Do you want to make money? Like, do you want to be able to take out owner's draws against your business or have distributions at the end of the year when your company makes a certain amount of profit?
I'll be honest with you, I've never considered that.
Okay, so you might be on the right 501c3 track.
I've never considered that.
And the last thing is, would you want to pass it down?
Yes.
Okay. So you shouldn't start at a 501c3 because 501c3s you never own.
Okay.
You might start it. You might be the founder, but it is not yours.
Okay.
You can't pass it down. You're not an owner. It's governed by a board.
True.
Right?
Which I'm in the process of putting together.
If you want to make money from it, then you might want to be the executive director. You might want to be the one that is implementing the vision. But that board becomes your boss. Right? So at some point, they decide whether or not you're doing a good job as an ED, and they can fire you from your own organization.
See, I was taught about that, and I was taught. I believe I was taught how to make sure that doesn't happen.
How?
By making sure that I have majority vote.
You can't as a nonprofit.
Okay, that's bad.
Yeah, you can't. And if you want to pass it down, you can't. 501c3 is a not-for-profit community organization.
That's I want to pass it down. Okay, I wouldn't necessarily pass it down.
Okay.
I want it to keep going.
You want it to keep going. So that's
yeah.
So that's like you don't want to leave it to a child or anything like that. Okay. Perfect.
I want it to keep going.
Yes. So nonprofits are amazing, but if you want to own it, then you really need to start a for-profit organization that has a social cause. So you can still deliver the same services that you would as a nonprofit organization in a for-profit way.
But with a for-profit, don't you need a product that you're selling?
Or service, or a program, or anything. It doesn't have to be that is something that's so significant. Wow, that was an aha moment for me, because in the African American community, we automatically associate business ownership with products.
Absolutely.
With like tangibles.
Yeah.
No. You don't need to do that. You can provide a service. You can be a service provider. A service provider is electricians are service providers, plumbers are service providers, attorneys are service providers, doctors are service providers, consultants, coaches. They provide a service. You don't walk away with anything tangible. And it's the same thing for nonprofits, right? You're selling a mission, which is the hardest thing in the world to sell, right? You're selling a mission, but you are still selling it. You're still selling that mission. If a foundation gives you a grant, that means you've done a good job at selling. You don't have to have a product. You can have a skill set and be successful at having a business. You know, like my main product that I sell is intellectual property. I sell my experiences, I sell my education, I sell my know-how.
My mentor is big on that intellectual property. He's like, make them pay you for your intellectual property. Don't just give them your vision, your ideas, your
creativity.
Yeah. Don't give them that for free, because they're going to find a way to monetize it. Make them pay you for that, right? He always says that.
So I'm going to need you to go ahead and add, since you got your 501c3, because that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. There's a lot of people out here that have not-for-profit corporations and will never achieve 501c3 status. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
I would never tell you to not do that. But now we need to go ahead and start you a for-profit one that you can make some money, donate to your nonprofit, still deliver your services to the community, but you still over here able to make some money off that intellectual property. We need both. We need both.
See, this is the thing. I've been sitting here trying to remember some of the questions that we was asking before, because I think a lot of them was important that should be put out there. Like last time, what I got out of it, and I actually started looking for it, was the social media manager.
Yeah, he's been talking about that.
Yeah,
a lot.
So now you got something out of it. That's going to be able to help you.
Yeah, we're going to start that for-profit one. I love nonprofits, don't get me wrong. Ultimately, I know I will start my own nonprofit. I know I will start my own organization that will help girls in the inner city, offer them entrepreneurship training. You know, that's like a vision for me. But I also know that I will fund that nonprofit with my own company money, because I will need a donation mechanism that's very, very good for tax purposes, and I donate a lot to other organizations. So ultimately, you know I want to donate it to my own, but I don't want to run it. I don't want to be the ED. I might be the president of the board until it's all good to go. That way, I can still guide that. That's the role that you want.
Okay.
You want to be the president of the board.
Maybe that's what it is.
You want to be the president of the board. You don't have majority vote, but you ultimately have a little bit more guidance, but you're going to be functioning like all of it until you get a good board established.
Right.
Until you get a good board established. I did that. I literally did for 2 years when I lived overseas. That's what I did. I would go into nonprofits that were receiving funding, and I would help them start.
Okay. And I want to talk about that real quick, but I want to. So, because you hit me with that question, and everything that I gave you was legitimate, right? Why did I start a nonprofit? But as we was talking and I'm thinking about it, I wanted to be, when I sat in prison, I wanted to be a community activist. I wanted to be, because I said I wanted to balance my scale, right? I was in the community doing BS, I want to be in the community doing good. And so, in my limited understanding of nonprofits, it's like nonprofit and community activists go together.
They do. That's true.
So I always tell people I want my own center where I'm.
Oh yes, that's a nonprofit.
You know what I'm saying? And
I mean, it could be a for-profit, but yes.
But I'm looking at again. My mentor, he got a center up in Cleveland, and I look at the traffic that comes through there. That like his hands are in so many different things, helping the community. Now he might be making money from it. I'm pretty sure he makes some money.
Does he do speaking engagements?
Right, he does speaking engagements.
He gets paid for those. So he gets paid for that.
Now he just created a program that he's going to.
He's selling.
Right.
Yes.
But it's like the first time I met him. I'm talking about the first time I met him when I got introduced to him. He said, "Man, you need a job." Like I want to be that person.
Yes.
That is able to tangibly help somebody in the hood make their situation better. You know, you got some kids. Okay, you take these kids. Here go these whatever it is, stipends, these gift cards, whatever. Go help your baby. Go. That's my vision for what I want to do.
Yes. So I do believe that you're on the right track, because your why, and that's for that mindset piece, you know, and that research, really understanding your why. You have to be building your business around what fulfills your purpose. You know, what helps you walk in your purpose, because it's too hard. If you are not getting the satisfaction, you have to be getting, in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, you have to get satisfaction from something in order to keep pushing, because it ain't going to be money. You got to get it from somewhere, and it has to be walking in your purpose. Even if it's that feeling when you get home at the end of the day after a 12-hour day working for yourself and you still ain't been able to make enough to give yourself a paycheck, you're like, but I did good today, you know? So I would tell you that the road that you're taking is absolutely 100% appropriate and accurate. Okay. If you want to be in the community activist position, but we still need to start for profit for that intellectual property, that impact that you're having, so that you can make money from speaking engagements and writing a book and touring and, you know, going out and talking. Because once you start your nonprofit and it becomes well known in the community and you're offering those services, people are going to invite you to come in and talk about those things. You're going to become the expert in those things, and that's your intellectual property. Okay. So I would definitely recommend that you start it so that you can still make some money, because your nonprofit, you can't.
Right.
You know,
and right now I do those things for free. So I mean, it would be nice to, you know, financially benefit. That way I ain't got to, you know, beg so much when I'm trying to do something.
You mean like speaking and stuff?
Yeah.
So if you do it for free, which is legit, you know, I
call it making my bones, right?
Yeah, and marketing and get your brand out there, right? Yeah. At the very least, ask for social proof in return. So ask someone to talk about how good you did.
Oh, okay.
So that you can use that the next time you're trying to get a customer or a client or a grant or anything. If you do anything for free or not for free, you should always ask, so can you fill out this feedback form for me after I did my speaking, or would you mind sending me a video about how well I did? Because that's going to help you, and you put those on your website. So when people are looking for speakers, they're going to go to your website, they're going to see a speaker page, they're going to see all these people saying, Shimmy killed it, he's amazing, the energy, and they're going to want you. Okay. And then in your sales process, that will automatically sell the fact that you need to get paid for it for you. Because I did the same thing for years. I did public speaking for free. It was a part of my marketing strategy. So for me, it was, I'll go speak. If you get the same audience that I have, I'll go speak because I know I'm going to get some customers out of it. And then it got to the point where I realized I should have been getting paid for it. And I was too scared to ever ask people, because so many people were, I had created this belief, this habit, that I was going to speak for free. And so everybody was like, what? So now I was like, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just going to put it in my sales process so that it's clear. And so if somebody requests me as a speaker, they have to submit a speaker's request form. On that speaker's request form, it says, what is your budget? What is your budget means, oh shit. She's going to ask for some money. And underneath that, it says, you know, Cheryl does do pro bono work, but she decides on a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, there's a charge.
And let me say that real quick, and then I want to talk about Africa. She said, when I reached out to her, I'm like, look, I'd love to have you on podcast. Like, I'm watching you, I'm looking at you moving. Like, I think you contribute a lot. People need to hear you. She's like, I love my city.
I do.
I love my city. I usually, boop. She say, I got you. Now, I told you this last time. You up my game as far as the professionalism, because I'm looking at it like, man, I'm calling home girl. And so when I reach out, her what she call herself, CP? Or not? No, that she call you CP. Her assistant. I get all this stuff back, like when you talk about like the
questionnaire,
and all that.
So we can call.
And I'm like, and then we Zoom meeting, and I'm like, man, what just happened to the phone call? Like, hey, come down at 3:00 and do the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. But it made me, I needed that, you know. And when I was telling Dion about it, she like, yeah, like everybody ain't gonna be like that. Like, you need to, even though it started like, yo, this is professionalism, you know what I'm saying?
It also makes it more efficient. You know, my time is just...
See, I see that. On that end of it, I see that. Mm-hmm. You managing your time, because your time is your money. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to get there. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to. I mean, I could argue that it is now, but I'm not financially benefiting from it now, so I don't necessarily look at it like that. But I get it though. I get it.
That's an important mindset piece too when you talk about the top 3 things. You know, I had to get my mindset wrapped around that, like with my family. You know, my mom, when I started my first business, she instantly thought, she free all day. She can run to the store with me. She can, because you know that's what I would have done. You know, like, so, you know, family would just take for granted. You're like, oh, I need to drop my car off to get it fixed. Call Sherry. Sherry will go. She ain't working. What the fuck you mean? Sorry. What the fuck? So I'm like, okay, you know what? We're gonna have to have this talk. How do I do this with my mom? Like, how do I do this with my family, my aunt? So, you know, we're dropping off her car. Now that's a 3-hour process, right? So in my mind, I'm like, this is $750.
Yeah.
So I said, Mom, I'm gonna send you an invoice. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, cause 3 hours of my time, I make $250 an hour right now, and yeah, no, I'm gonna send you an invoice because this was $750. She's like, but I'm your mother. I said, I just want you to be clear that every hour that I'm with you is costing me $250 an hour. Do you care about me? Would you be pissed if I was like losing $250 an hour? She'd be like, yes. I said, so let's break down this drop off the car thing in the middle of the day. Let's break down this, let's go grocery shopping in the middle of the day. Because my mom was a nurse at St. E's. You couldn't, if I would have called her at work, they would have had to page her. The whole hospital was in her business, because that was back in the day before they had like cell phones on them.
Yeah.
You know, so I couldn't call her at work. It was like a no-no unless I was dying, unless I was literally with a limb cut off or something, you know, and I couldn't call her at work or I would get in trouble. So the concept is you have to train. Like even now, you know, I have to train people, you know, I'm not available all day long. Usually my schedule is so back to back to back to back that I'm not available all day long. And now that mom and dad are seniors, they have to call you as soon as they remember stuff, because you know they're going to forget. So we in that, now we working through that, because I don't know how to get through that. I was just thinking about something. It's 12:30. You didn't answer the phone. I'm at work. You know, I'm at work. You know, so we getting back there now. But that time is so critical. So that's why my process for speaking is so strict.
Gotcha.
Because it allows me to get the information that I need, schedule 1-hour call, sum it all up, and then once I'm done with that, I pass it off to my team to begin to make sure that my presentations are prepared, that you've got what you need to promote it. You know, and then my social media manager has what they need in order to be able to promote it, so I can be done with the process. If it goes outside of that process, it gets all up, and everybody's extra calls, extra conversations, extra texting or emailing back and forth, and that all takes time.
Gotcha.
So it's
important to know. That's important to know.
Yes, and it's important for people to know that you got to pay me.
That's important to know.
So if we don't go through that process,
and I'm telling you what,
I can't invoice you.
I'm going through the process right now. And if I'm honest, part of me saying I just look at it as making my bones, even though I really do believe. I mean, I look at it like in the streets. When I started in the streets, I didn't just start like the man in the streets. Like I was making my bones. Mm-hmm. So I look at it like that, as making my bones. But it also is a part of me, if I'm honest, that's scared to ask for what I'm worth, what I believe that I'm worth.
Yeah. And
I know I have to conquer that fear. Or people just gonna take advantage of that?
Yes.
I know that.
It does feel unnatural if it's something that you love.
It does. Mm-hmm. It really does.
That's that mindset. You have got to wrap your arms around. I did the same thing. I love public speaking. I competed on Mooney's speech team. You know, I love it. So it felt unnatural to charge people for it. And then I realized it's unnatural not to charge people for it. You know, it's that's the unnatural part, even if you love it. So I still get to do it for free because I love it, but I get to decide.
Right.
It's not an assumption.
And you just said that. I because I have this guilt, and I haven't really used that word when I talk about why I do what I do, but because I have this huge guilt about how I used to live, I feel like anytime someone asks me to speak, I want to do it because I'm happy they asked me, because obviously they see the change in me.
You want to share.
And I want to, so I ain't going to charge you nothing. I'm just happy you asked me to do it. Because obviously you see that I'm a different person now, which is what I ultimately want, is to change the narrative of who I used to be. But that plays a role in you.
Yes, that's that imposter syndrome shit. You know, that shit will get you. I just had a conversation with one of my best friends yesterday. She was like, you know, like at her regular job, it hits people regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur. Her regular job, she found out that after she was there for a year, that she was going to get a pretty significant raise. And she was like, I said, what we sad about? She's like, you know, that imposter syndrome, like, should I be making that much money? I'm like, shit, that shit gets you, you know, in every direction. I struggle with it all the time. You know what I do? I have a channel. We have a Slack feed for me and my team. Slack is a internal communication system that we use where we can instant message each other. And we have a Slack channel called Wins and Feedback. So whenever I get feedback from a student or on YouTube, somebody says, oh, you changed my life, or I get an email message, we share them in the Slack feed. So once we're in that Slack feed, when I'm feeling like that, I go into that Slack feed and I just read the comments. I read the thank yous. I read the, I'm a single mom. You know, I had one YouTube viewer send me the longest email I've ever received, and she lost her son June 30th. She had been starting this business that he was pushing her into, you know, for years, and she never really got off her ass and got it done. And he died in a car accident June 30th of this year. And she found my YouTube channel. Oh. And since she started watching it June 30th to when she emailed me, which was like the end of July, she had set up her business plan, she had set up her LLC, she had gotten her email, her domain, she was setting up her marketing, and she literally said, it was so much pressure, because she was like, you know, you giving me a reason to keep going, you know, after losing my son. And I started getting imposter syndrome. I'm like, that's just too much pressure. I don't want all that pressure. I don't want to be your reason for living. Like I don't want that. I don't want to be nobody's reason for living, because that's too much. Because that means I can't really say no.
Mess up, right?
You know, I can't really say no.
No wiggle room.
But I saw the email, and it just got me back into like, no, you wanted to walk in this purpose. You know, it's a burden, and that's what I'm telling you. You want to walk in that purpose. It's a burden. Start out by asking for a small honorarium for your time, because when you do a presentation, it's not just when you're there speaking that hour. You spend on average 8 hours minimum preparing for that presentation. So that's a 10-hour job.
I didn't even realize it was that much, but you do. Like writing a speech, rewriting a speech. Remember, and I don't
handouts, bullet points, PowerPoints, you know, whatever. And now for me, it's not even an option, because my team helps with that. So I'm losing money.
Yeah.
If I don't charge you,
right?
You know, because I still have to have my team, and I still got to pay them, right? You know, so, but ask for a small honorarium. That's how I started. You know, I don't charge for speaking, especially when it's, you know, in my wheelhouse and it's in my lane, it's my passion. But I do, you know, want you to consider at least a $250 honorarium to cover the costs associated with being here today.
I like that honorarium. I like that. Mm-hmm. So look, we got a few minutes left, right? I want to talk about Africa, but we can talk with you like we just. The vibe, the first kind of vibe was listen, what y'all don't know is after the podcast, the last time we stood outside and still talked for like an hour.
We did a whole nother podcast. And we should have just uploaded.
For real, you know.
Definitely should have did.
But I want to turn the station and make it a little more personal.
Okay.
But because you're from the city, your black mother, you see what's going on in the city, right? And it's a whole array of reasons why we seeing what we seeing going on in the city. I don't necessarily know at this point in time if economic plays a role.
What do you think the reason is? I can't understand it.
I believe.
Is it legit? Is it?
Well, I'm just saying in general. I ain't gonna say like certain specifics, because average, you know, you might have, okay, you got a shooting today. I woke up today, my sister told me little sister was found dead over on the south side of this.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Right? You know, yesterday you wake up, it might be different reasonings as why this is happening, but in general, we have a mentality. I feel in Youngstown that's been bred in us. That's how we solve our differences. It's through violence, right? It's just when we was coming up, it was bad.
I know.
It was all over the place.
Now, I was here.
Right. So now people talking about, oh, it's bad now. We seen
it was
that.
like that in the 90s too.
It was like that in the 90s.
Oh my God,
That's
it really
why
was.
I made a post like I was incarcerated for 26 years. Ain't nothing changed.
Right.
Right. So people throwing darts at me, telling me I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be in this lane, I shouldn't be taking the lead on this stuff. My whole thing is y'all had 26 years to do something and it ain't changed nothing. I give it a shot.
Say it
if
again.
I fail.
You had 26. What's what you say?
Had 26 years to do it, and they dropped somebody along the way, dropped the ball, not just somebody. A lot of
You like we've seen this movie. I know how it is.
Like I told, I made a live after the baby, and I respected what her father said that he felt responsible because she died on his watch. She died on our watch.
He's gonna live with that.
I feel like that. So go ahead.
I actually did a post on that about that too. Saying that it's on all of us. We are all accountable for what happened to her. I think about that a lot. It's like we all got to take responsibility. We all got to do better, so this won't happen to the next child.
So as a Youngstown bred black mother, you might not be single, but you're still a black mother who I'm sure has your own set of trepidations and fears and stuff when it comes to your children.
Consistently.
How do you see this, and how do you think we can navigate through this?
I spend a lot of time with my children. I've got 6 of them, 3 boys and 3 girls. And I spend a lot of time talking through what's happening in the world with them. So, perfect example. My 12-year-old, who's the baby, now he's the baby, but he's bigger than everybody else. Like, he just literally crossed over. He's like an inch shorter than his 2 older brothers. He's in a size 13 shoe. He plays offense and defense in football. He's 220 and he's 5'9" and he's 12.
Yeah, beats.
I mean, just on offense and defense. My baby ain't got no water breaks. They just like, he's just big. Put him out there. He's just, kids bouncing off of him. It's intense. Yeah. So one of his friends got in trouble at school because some girl, this is the story he said to me. Some girl claimed sexual assault against his friend. And he was just like dismissing it, and I mean, allegedly, he was like doing allegedly, like he on damn CNN or something. And I was just listening to the dynamic, of what he was saying and his feelings towards it, and it gave me caution. It threw up all kinds of red flags, because what are we talking about here? So I said, why is it allegedly? Well, unless they have proof, unless she has proof, I don't believe her. And I said, do you know how difficult it is to prove that? I said, it's always going to be a he said, she said thing. I said, bottom line is, if you can't dictate how someone else perceives a sexual advance. So, if your friend touched her butt, it didn't matter. She felt like that was sexual assault because he shouldn't have touched her butt. Period. And I just said, the fuck about this friend. We focus on you. And I said, don't touch women unless they tell you it's okay. Don't pursue, don't do any of that stuff. We're not living in the day and age back in the day when we was at St. Pat's, when all the boys would lay on the ground just to look up underneath your skirt, and we was like, oh my God, stop. That's gone. Right. You can never dictate how the other person is going to react. And so I feel like it's my responsibility. At that moment, that was a red flag moment for my 12-year-old, because I could have been like, yeah. And what would that have given, what perception would that have given him about whether it's okay or not to touch a girl's butt? Right. Like, even if you like her, even if you think she likes you, ask for permission. Can I touch you? Because you don't know what's going on in her head, and he's a black man. And we live in a predominantly white community. So that's a whole nother issue. So we have to have those conversations. We have to have conversations about what to do as a black man if you get pulled over. You know, my oldest son is skeptical. The one who likes money, he is a skeptic. And he is quick to get defensive with the police, but he has zero faith or confidence, you know, in it because of him being a Generation Zer, right, and what his experience has always been, you know, and how much more public it is. So we have to have those conversations. And I think that, just like you said, it's all of our responsibility. You can say, well, that's the parents, but not everybody has parents like that. So when you recognize as a member of a community that there's kids that are throwing up those red flags at early ages, just like my son threw up, you know, just like my daughters have thrown up in the past, those moments when they're crossing over from being kids and believing everything you say to trying to figure out if what you're saying is legit. All kids go through that, and we all have a responsibility to pay attention to those red flags and address them immediately.
I like that.
Address them immediately so that it's not left up to the media or their stupid ass friends. You know, like my daughters, I've always been very open in discussing sex with them because I knew my mom was a nurse and she left some damn pamphlets on my pillow with some bullshit. So I relied on my dumb ass friends. And we was all dumb. We was all dumb. We all thought all kinds of shit was okay. So I don't even go back there. But the point was, you know, no, my daughter's like, you know, the minute they like, I like somebody, I'm like, all right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about cleanliness, hygiene, you know, what all of that means, what that connection is going to do to you emotionally, and how direct you need to be about that connection and what your expectations are. Don't ever keep your mouth shut about what your expectations are. You know, you're giving yourself. And then, you know, my biggest saying was to my daughters, if you decide to have a baby with a man, I need you to understand that every time you do, is he a man that is worth risking your life for? Because that's what you're doing. When you get pregnant and you decide to have a baby for somebody, would you die for him? Because if the answer is no, then you shouldn't be having babies. We ain't in the 12th century where you can't stop that shit. If you aren't trying not to have babies, you are trying to have babies. It's not one or the other.
But what do you say? I'm interested in it. Why do you say if you're not willing to die for them?
Because when a woman is pregnant, when she is pregnant, that is the closest that she will ever come to death.
Yeah, I have heard that.
In her life.
Some women have died.
You're awesome. They love you.
I love you too. You know that's the truth though. Your life insurance will go up and shit. It's real messed up. If you're a pregnant woman, don't try to renew or up your life insurance when you're pregnant because they're gonna clobber your ass with some premium. You're like, that's what I realized. I'm like, why? Until I got licensed in insurance, then I realized, oh, you die. Yeah, you know everything about it.
That's real.
Everything about it. So if I have a baby, I love your ass. Shit. I ain't doing that shit no more. But I love your ass because I'm like, I'm going to die. I could potentially die just to give birth to your offspring. Like, that's some serious commitment.
I don't have children. That's deep.
That's some serious commitment.
It's a life or death moment once you're on that delivery table.
Yes. Not to mention you can't take no damn cold medicine or eat no chocolate or get no I mean, you sacrifice the whole time. Now you can't even eat lunch meat or something. It's a whole new list of shit that they got out that you can't do. You know, as women, I'm like, what you mean? My oldest daughter, when she was pregnant, she's like, I can't have ham. I'm like, what? She's like, the nitrate. I'm like, that's some bullshit. I ate ham. Like, y'all fine? Y'all good? They have this whole list of the sacrifice that you're making for this man. Yeah. Really, because that's what women do. That's what we're doing it for. We ain't, you know, we doing it for the man. So you got to love them.
So it sounds like you have great communication with your kids.
Yes, it's
like y'all talk about any and everything.
Yes, we do.
That's very important because, like you said, you had to go out and find out different things from other people that you wasn't getting the right information.
Yes.
So your kids know once they come to you, they getting the right information.
Yes, and it makes me feel good now that the majority of my children, my oldest 4, are all adults, and you lose control once that happens as a parent, which was a very difficult transition for me. I'm a little bit of a control-oriented person, so all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute.
Scorpio.
Oh, it is. I'm like, wait a minute, you get to make your own decisions, but I get to help you figure out your damn consequences? Like, this is not a fair distribution of power. But that's what it is. And so now that they become adults, how I know I did right is because they call me. You know, when they are in the thick of something that they are unsure of, they'll call me or they'll call their dad, and I know that it's right. And it's abnormal too. I recognize that it's not necessarily the normal thing, because we always, like my daughter, my second oldest daughter, was in a relationship with someone who didn't understand that. And actually didn't like how close she was with her parents. You know, just didn't understand it. And that's when I knew, I'm like, oh, we doing it right. As long as I'm annoying his ass, we don't be doing it. No, I'm lying. No, sort of. But
and with that communication like that, that starts discipline.
It makes it so that if they do make their own decision, which I think every human being is entitled to, that they're equipped with all the information to make a good one.
So that way they can live with it.
Yeah.
That's why I say that a lot. Like, we got to make it. If somebody come to me for advice or opinion, whatever, I get to her, I say, but at the end, you gonna have to make that decision that you can live with.
Yes.
You know, I can give you all the advice that I know or experience or heard of or whatever, but at the end, you gonna have to make that decision.
Yes.
Because you got to make a decision
part, right?
that you got to live with.
Yes. And if I give you all the good information, not the crazy stuff, then you'll make ideally the right one. And that's that journey that I'm coming to with adult children. And that's very difficult.
So you said, so that triggers. I mean, when I was teaching my class in prison, I had a big chalkboard. And it was blank. And I said, you know, everyone comes into the world with a blank chalkboard. If you're fortunate, and it's leading back to question 9, if you're fortunate, you have 2 good parents that will write on your chalkboard and help you write on your chalkboard. If you're lucky, you'll have 1.
Yeah.
If you don't have any, and you don't know how to write on your chalkboard, someone else is going to write on that chalkboard for you, and the stuff that they're going to write is probably not going to be beneficial to you. It's going to be beneficial to them.
Yes.
So I always encourage dudes to make sure you write on your chalkboard, and if you have children, you write on their chalkboard.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's a lot that goes into what we're seeing now in our community. But a big part of that is the parents aren't writing on their kids' chalkboard, and they letting other kids write on the chalkboard.
Yes, and they're not equipped to deal with the emotional piece of life. You know, you get to a certain point in your life where you start crossing over into puberty and into being a teenager. And like I said, you know, my 12-year-old, he's making that transition where everything I said was like, yes. And now all of a sudden he's 12, he'll be 13, and he like, maybe mom ain't, you know. And especially now, these Zers, they got Google. They got all this damn information that I feel like I'm always like, you know, where you get that from? Like my son will be like, you know, no, this Greek God, you know, you say something there, they Google it, and I'm like, why are you checking on me?
Second guess.
Yeah, you know, that will create a fight for me. Right. But you realize as a parent, I'm like, I got to adjust because they got access to all this information. It's not all good. It's not all accurate. There's a million different points of view. I think our children, we have to be able to help them navigate the emotional transition, and so many of them have suffered trauma. So many of them are walking around with PTSD. You know, PTSD is real, and they're walking around with it, and no one is able to help them identify that what their brain is making them feel like is the action that must be taken, is not because it should be. It's because chemically, that's how their brain is reacting. Like that fight or flight survival mode is so high in our children who suffered traumas and who suffered from PTSD. And in the Black community especially, mental health is not encouraged or okay. You know, it's ostracized. I get aunties now, like, you know, he's you know, probably bipolar, and that is a mental health issue. It's just like, cancer or diabetes, you know, and the doctor that treats bipolar is a psychiatrist, just like the doctor that treats cancer is an oncologist, you know, it's just what it is. But I remember growing up, and I had an auntie who was straight up schizophrenic. I mean, legit, now that I know what I know. But back in the day, she just had a nervous breakdown. You know, she was stressed out. You know, it's like, oh, don't worry about auntie. You know, she ever since she had that breakdown. Well, I didn't realize that auntie had a breakdown in her 20s when schizophrenia manifests, and you know, and now ever since then, that's how she deals with her stress. She talks to herself. She hears voices. Like, no, that is not okay. That is not what we do. Auntie needed help, and auntie my parents and my family should have been like, auntie goes to a doctor, and doctors help fix that. Helps her deal with that trauma. So that would have made me feel like that doctor was okay. Well, when I put myself in therapy from my, you know, traumas, when I was in college, I didn't tell anybody because I was ashamed of it. I was like, but I was working through all my issues and nobody knew. I just emerged like a butterfly who was like, you know, in touch with herself emotionally. But I was in counseling every single week for 18 months. My mom would have smacked the shit out of me.
You know what? It has helped me. First, I made a post that says you don't have to go to Iraq or war to have PTSD.
No.
You grew up in the hood, you have PTSD.
You do.
Right? Because you don't look at things, just the fact that you don't look at things the way normal society looks is an indication that you have PTSD.
Yes.
Right. And I go to therapy. And it's helped.
Yes, it does.
A lot. Because when I first came home, and I didn't even know that I had I know I had trauma. I went through trauma classes and stuff in prison. So I knew I had trauma, but I didn't know how it was going to affect me. Because in prison, your everything is structured, right? And I remember the first time when I came home, my first anxiety attack was, you know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and my friend is actually watching right now, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm watching TV. Now I live in a neighborhood, a white neighborhood, with he was like my big brother, he was a pastor, he passed, and his house had no curtains, right? Like, this was a neighborhood where you don't lock the doors and stuff like that. It freaked me out, right? But I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting on the couch, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I got a sweatshirt on, and I'm watching TV. And I started looking, and the house is by woods. And you see another house right there, but all these woods, and it's dark. And I went back to 27 years ago. When the dude walked up to the window, broke the window, and I got shot. And I'm saying to myself, damn, if somebody walked up to this window and shoot me, I ain't even gonna see him.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I'm sweating.
You're having a panic attack.
And I come out my hood, I come out my shirt. I don't even know what this is. I just
think you're having a heart attack.
I'm freaking out, right? And I'm like, and so the couch is right here, and it's a wall, and it's a little corner. And I wanted so bad to go sit in that corner, put my back up against the wall, right? Because I'm like, man, I won't see nobody. I won't see them. And I ain't got no gun. And I'm saying all of this stuff, right? And so I called my friend, and she literally sat on the phone with me for an hour to talk me down.
Yeah.
And I found out later that I had a major anxiety attack, right? But from PTSD, from trauma, in prison, I never was able to deal with that because a lot of times, we have to have situations that
trigger it.
Yes. You ain't having those situations that trigger it. So when I sat there, I'm in this beautiful house, in this beautiful neighborhood, I'm having an anxiety attack because this setting then triggered.
Because he got too many windows.
He got too many freaking windows.
Yes.
And he would come home, like, he had decorative curtains. I call them decorative. Like, they not full closing. Right. But I'm trying to close them. So it's like one here and one here, but the thing's so long, it looks ridiculous what I'm trying to do. And he's like, man, what's wrong with you? I'm like, man, I don't know, but this it's bothering me. So I say that to say, PTSD is definitely real. Trauma in our community is definitely real, and mental health help is definitely needed.
Yes.
And we got to really push that. See, I ain't gonna just say young men, to young women also.
Yeah, and you know what? I think we have to push it because my counselor that I chose in college grew up like me. So she was literally from the hood, you know, a whole different state, but from the hood, you know, grew up in a family that abuse was involved, and so I identified better with her, you know, and I had tried other counselors. So finding the right person, one of my really good friends just started her mental health, you know, her therapy and counseling business, and she, you know, grew up on the east side of Youngstown. She would be amazing to work with these kids because they're not going to listen to everybody.
True.
You can't nobody talk to you about what your environment is creating from a trauma perspective if they didn't grow up in that environment. So I think it's critical for us to, all of our mental health specialists that are in Youngstown, from Youngstown, come together and begin to identify how to help these families and these kids emotionally get through these because these actions, this shooting babies and shooting each other, this is a knee-jerk reaction to some type of internal fear, flight or fight, some kind of thing is going on that is being triggered by something. It's not just because they sitting at home bored,
Right, for sure.
and they just like, oh, I'm just gonna go shoot a baby. You know, that's not where it's coming from. So I think that we have to help identify those red flags and begin to help parents, their mothers, whether they're existent or non-existent, their fathers, understand that this is a critical piece in order for our children to feel better and to make it. You have to. It becomes difficult for you to have legit relationships, and that's why I started counseling, because my relationships sucked. I was unable to have real, true relationships with men, even though I knew that I wanted to ultimately get married and have children one day. So how I was acting and what I was doing was never going to enable that to happen. You know.
Yeah, I think I'm in that space right now. I know that, to piggyback off what you said, it's extremely important for us to have counselors that look like us. Like in Mansfield, I have a black male, and he's the only one in Mansfield. And it was someone who actually showed me how to get him, how to make sure I got him, right? But now I'm trying to move. I'm in the process of moving back home, and so I went to get set up for counseling. And the lady told me we don't have any African American men. And I'm like,
You know Don Powell.
yeah, Don just said something on the thing.
That's who you need to talk to.
Okay, so, but I initially was doing it because I went to this particular people because I was trying to get help housing. Like, I'm being discriminated so much against trying to find somewhere to live. It's ridiculous, but they were supposed to help housing. But when she said this, she said we have some older white men and we have some young white women. And I'm like, okay, this old white man is definitely not going to be able to relate to.
You're not going to even open up because you're going to feel like he's judging you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm if I'm honest, I'm bringing my own residual stuff from my experiences to this.
Yes.
And it's aimed at you.
Yes.
People that look like you. So we really ain't going to get nowhere.
Yes.
But then I'm like, okay, young white girl, yeah, how authentic am I going? How real am I going to get? Like, I might scare her out. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a vital need for us to have people that look like us in those positions, so that, and that's still going to take. It's a process to trust in somebody to give them your stuff.
Oh, it is. It truly is, because I am so protective of my personal information. I do not do vulnerability well. I still don't. I hate it, but maybe it's a Scorpio thing. I'm not
People
sure.
think that I do because people think that I do because I openly talk about a lot of stuff, and I have to explain to people, no, it's because I'm able to control what I'm talking about. But giving somebody, I don't know how to explain it, but it's different. I go on the stage and I talk about being molested, I talk about all that, but I ain't in control of that, right? So I'm giving it to you how I want to give it to you, what I want to give to you. So even though I'm giving you some stuff, you're looking at it like, wow, he's really transparent. I am, but I'm also still very guarded.
And you don't only give it to people that you feel can't use it against you. That's really where it comes from. If I share my story with a crowd of strangers, you can't use that against me. You're using it against me means nothing. But somebody that I care about, whose opinion I value, who's supposed to be there for me, who I've got all these preconceived, notions about what our relationship is supposed to contain, you're the last person that's going to get my goods, because I'm going to be like, oh no, I seen this movie, you're going to use it against me, because that's when it becomes devastating. That's when that vulnerability becomes devastating. And I've been told that I need to be more personalized with my marketing, because but that's when I started doing more TikToks to help people understand that my personality.
You was trying to get to it.
Yes.
You trying to get to it. Like,
yes.
I ain't got time.
I'm professional, and I am about business, and I am, but I'm also a fool, and and
that lets people connect.
Yes,
yes. And I think that's what people say about me. Is my openness allows people to connect with me, I'm messed up.
They do.
You know what I'm saying? I've been through it, so it's like it resonates with them. I ain't the brightest dude. I ain't, but man, there's something about him that we just.
I think your nonprofit could have a huge impact.
That's my goal.
The whole time we've been talking about this, I got so many ideas
listen,
that I'm keeping to myself.
Listen, I'm already in my head.
I think that you need to. One of the
like,
first things I would offer is some free counseling services. Gather up all these beautiful Black therapists that we have in this city, because I literally, off the top of my head right now, know and I'm close to at least 5.
Yeah.
And get them to volunteer their time once a week, where you have cubicle stations or private. I actually just saw some on Wayfair. Private areas where they can have, and kids who want to talk don't have to worry about insurance, don't have to give their name, don't have to do anything, can come in for at least one session and have a conversation.
All right, look, don't get too much. Don't listen.
That's a great idea.
It's an awesome idea.
It is, and I see where you're going with it.
Yeah,
it's an awesome idea, and that's one of the things we're going to do. For the podcast, we're going to have a series on mothers of murder victims, and we're not doing that by ourselves. Now, fortunately, I have a sister who's willing to help us navigate that, because you need somebody professional to navigate that conversation. So we don't come across insensitive, even though that's not our.
And you don't trigger some PTSD,
we don't trigger some stuff,
some trauma. Yeah,
absolutely. So. But that's I have that as a my pops always get on me about that. Like, you need that, you need the mentoring, you need the mental health. He always telling me about the grants to go try to get it. Like, you got mental health stuff, you got all of these things. So I haven't been, but I'm definitely gonna need somebody like you to
job preparedness. It's just so many different things.
So listen, we can keep going.
I love it.
Don said thanks for the shameless plug. Listen, that's what friends are for, right?
Yes.
I've learned in life, man, it ain't what you know, it's who you know. And Don literally just helped me with a situation last Sunday that I stumbled upon because I spilled the drink.
Dawn has her own practice. It's official.
Dawn is dope.
Her own independent practice.
Dawn is dope. Dawn is dope. So, again, what?
No, go ahead. That's off camera.
Before we leave, this is something, I'm trying to get better at this, so I'm watch stuff and I see, take little things from here over there. But before we leave, give us something to hang our hats on.
For the long term?
For the long term.
Around what? I mean, I got so many ideas in my head right now. For the audience, for entrepreneurs,
that's your lane.
Okay, that's my lane. So I would probably say, just believe that if you have a vision, if you are sitting at a desk somewhere, hating your life, hating yourself for not pursuing what you really deep down in your bones feels is your destiny, which is your own, then tackle that dream the same way that you would tackle whatever work it is that you're doing where you're working. Like, never give somebody else's business more than you'll give yourself. And that takes discipline, that takes, belief. But I just have to say, if you give somebody else 40 hours a week in their business, then give your own 40. And does that mean you work in 80? Yes. But I've had people say, I want to make 6 figures. And I always say, people who make 6 figures don't work 40 hours a week. They just don't. People who make 7 figures, 8 figures, don't work 40 hours a week. They just don't. They don't go together. So it's okay. So you might be working 60. Give your business, give yourself, give your dream more than you are giving it. Don't let it become this thing in the past or this thing in the future. Stop waiting. If there's one regret that I've ever had about starting my very first business, it was that I didn't do it sooner. I let the fear and the excuses and the 9-to-5 mentality and the security stop me from really going full-fledged. And once I decided I'm going full ham on my entrepreneurial journey, I was like, wow, I wish I had done this 5 years ago. So I would just say go for it. And reach out, ask for help, learn as much as you can, because your entrepreneurial dream is totally worth it. All that you will experience in life, you'll experience things that you never thought you could, especially growing up on the south side of Youngstown. Never thought it was even possible.
Little black girl from the south side of Youngstown.
Little black girl. Great.
Man, listen, we appreciate you for coming back.
I appreciate you guys for having me.
And redoing it with
Absolutely.
us.
I'm excited to see big things coming from Pros and Cons.
We definitely going to try to, put this thing where it should be.
And I think you guys are doing amazing work. So you guys, if you think that they are doing amazing work, make sure you tell them, because it's a struggle, right? Not a lot of people do this. It's not easy getting on camera and talking and trying to help. So let these men know the impact that they're having.
For sure. And again, tell them where they can find you.
CherylCPerez.com is one of the easiest places, but also YouTube at Cheryl C. Perez, Instagram, Cheryl C. Perez, Facebook. I'm on all of those. Check me out. I will gladly, and I answer lots of questions outside of my students. I get inbox questions, I get DMs, and I answer them. After about 3 questions, though, I'm going to go ahead and send you where you can pay. Just so you know, but I will. So check it out.
She the homegirl from around the way who got her stuff going on.
We need that theme song around the way, girl.
Yeah. We gotta get it. See,
we need some
so
music.
Much we gotta add to this, right? Music. But right now, man, we're in the basement right now. What they. I'm just saying, man. I'm just, metaphorically speaking. We're in the basement with how they was on Hustle and Flow when they took the things for the McDonald's. They passed them all over the wall. We about to get out the basement. We about to be on some stuff, man. For real. But thank you again for
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Hope y'all got something from it. Mad love. They said mad love.
I bet I got something from this.
If you didn't, man,
I'm wrong.
Hey. Again, peace and love, and most importantly, respect, man. Y'all have a great one. I think we.
Yeah.